Hi everyone, I hope you're well. I'm really excited about this live. Tonight I'm joined by Emma Grönberg. I hope I got that pronunciation right, else Emma and my Danish team are going to be very upset with me. But Emma is also known as Donorchild. She has written a book and started a whole Instagram and online platform about her experience of being conceived through donor sperm. And her story is just amazing. Like, it's really inspirational. It's really honest and it's really uplifting. And I think not only does it give, I think, some security and some hope to maybe parents that are looking to become people who are looking to become parents through donor conception, but I think it's also just opened up a whole conversation about proactive fertility. And yeah, I'm going to add Emma in now and she can tell you all about it. Is she joining? This is always the fun bit. Hi, Ella. How are you doing? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's fine. What about me?
How was my pronunciation of your Danish surname? Did I do okay, or did I get it wrong, or did you not hear me say it? So Emma, I was just giving a little brief intro, but for anyone that's not familiar with you or your story and kind of how we ended up working together and collaborating, could you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
So my name's Emma. I am, and I'm donor conceived, and yeah, been kind of working with that for a couple of years now. Wrote about it as well, and just generally really interested in fertility.
Yeah, I think we've had, before this, we've had some great conversations about how ExSeed with our sperm tests and our supplements are, really trying to push the kind of proactive approach to fertility. And I feel like, and I know we'll come on to this later, that like some people might not see the connection between proactive fertility and donor conception, but actually they kind of do all link together. And I think, you've become such an advocate for fertility awareness, as well as, shining a light on the experience of being donor conceived and helping people who are on that journey as well. So just to kind of get into your personal experience. So obviously you've written about this in the book, but you were, so it was donor sperm, wasn't it, that was used for your conception? And did your parents, do you know what their experience was up until that point of realizing that they were going to use donor sperm, and like how they came to that decision?
So I think my parents, they realized quite early that they might need to go down that path. So they actually, I think my dad, he volunteered sperm donor to get his sperm tested because they had like a feeling that so they found really early that was probably the main reason why they didn't become pregnant. And so I think it didn't take them very long to decide to go down that path, actually.
Right.
And speaking to my dad, I think they just talked about it, and he was really fast, in my opinion, to come to terms with that.
And so do you know how long they were trying before they kind of realized that they would need assisted fertility, at least maybe before they realized they had to go to donor?
I'm not actually sure how long they were trying before, maybe only a half year or something like that.
Yeah.
I think they were quite fast because they had like a feeling. They're both doctors, so
right.
Wait a bit short.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is like, especially in the UK, like I'm not 100% sure what the advice is in Denmark, but in the UK it's very like, try for a year and then maybe come and see us. And it's really difficult to get help before that year is there. But like you said, like depending on where you are in your journey, like a year is a really long time. So it's great that they kind of started investigating other options relatively early on. I mean, you talked about, you know, you spoke to your parents about this, and you write about that in the book, that they're so like really open and honest about the whole process to you. Was that always the way, or was there like a point where they kind of talked to you about it?
No, so my parents made like a with the story of them wanting a child, falling in love, wanting a child, had it was easy for them. And the story is like a nice man helped us become a family. So he doesn't play like a big part, but he's always been mentioned, and then that's just been more or less it. And
Yeah.
then yeah, the story of them trying to it not succeeding, and then suddenly it happened while they had already given up hope. So yeah, like a little.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like, you know, you speak about quite a lot that you feel so loved, like from your parents, because they've told you this whole story that, like, not only did they want you and they love you, but like they worked really hard and fought really hard and had to really try and all that effort. And I think, I imagine some parents with donor conceived children, or even like adopted children, or, you know, the kind of non-traditional routes to parenthood, maybe worry that their child might have feeling some, you know, some negative feelings, or not feeling, you know, part of that family. But actually, from everything you talk about for your personal experience, like you feel more wanted and loved than, you know, you could ever imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I, that is what I try to communicate, that that is the most important thing in creating a family.
Yeah, exactly. Like genetics is not as important as like love, basically. Like in the kind of whatever route you take, like it's, as long as that's all, that's love, that's amazing. But do you, I guess as well, I think that open and on that transparency from such an early age, and like you said, maybe having age appropriate conversations at different stages, and then I'm sure as you got older, you maybe asked more questions, and it sounds like they were always open and honest.
Yeah, they really were. And yeah, whenever there's something that my mind or something that popped up in relation to my donor conception, we just talked about it in the family, just had open conversation. It was never
Yeah.
really, you couldn't stress.
And it's funny, I feel like Denmark as a whole, like, I mean, obviously ExSeed, like we've got huge roots in Denmark, and I feel like the country as a whole, or maybe Scandinavia, you know, I think they have a very open and honest attitude towards fertility and even, you know, sex and all these kinds of things. And I feel like UK is slightly behind in that kind of feeling comfortable with having those conversations with children in particular. I mean, would that be your advice to parents that are going down the donor conception route? Do you think that honesty really is the best policy when it comes to talking to your kids?
Yeah, I definitely think that honesty is key to a happy child and a happy
Mm,
family dynamic. Also think that is just me trying to imagine how I would feel in that situation. But I also can't imagine it very easy to have like a big secret that
yeah,
is, and to have to keep that for many years. So I feel like
yeah,
also be so much stressful.
yeah. I agree. It's like anything, like, you know, within a family, secrets is never healthy. Like it's never good. And like you said, it's about finding, and I think that's why your story is so helpful, because, you know, I think that the more we hear from I guess the adult children of donor conception who can say, like, this is my experience and actually I have a wonderful life that's really full and happy, like that's great for those children to have role models and those parents to have examples of how it can work out perfectly and amazingly. And you also have siblings, don't you? So Are they younger? Are they older? Were they also donor conceived? How is the kind of family all built together?
Yeah, so I have two sisters. They are about 1.5 years younger, and they're twins. So
Wow.
actually, my dad's biological children, because at that time they had come up with this new method called ExSeed, where you just a much lesser amount to fertilize the egg. So that was why it was suddenly possible for parents to have genetic children. That was.
And how is your relationship with them? Like, I mean, it has, from everything you say, it doesn't sound like being donor conceived has caused any like feelings for you, but like growing up, was that always the way? You always just felt all that love?
I think I always knew that I was special, and that being in a very, very positive way. So in relation to my sisters, it never really had a big impact. Quite old actually when we the connection that me being donor conceived meant that we were in a biological sense only half siblings. We've always yeah, just
Yeah. And just the normal stuff. I imagine like three girls living together, like you're going to argue anyway. You're not arguing about who's donor conceived and who's not. Probably just normal sister stuff.
then my sister. So in some sense, I've sometimes felt a bit like out. And whenever you feel a bit lonely or left out or something, that can talk into some negative feelings. And then
Yeah,
I did have thinking that the one that was the least connected to the family, but I always knew, and I think it's okay sometimes to have some negative connect. It is a big change in a family dynamics,
yeah.
genetics mixed up. So, but I always knew that it wasn't the case. I always knew a brief feeling, and it wasn't the truth.
Yeah.
So, important thing. And every time I felt like I could speak up about it, and then
Yeah. I think, yeah, and like you said, growing up, like I think this just the very nature of growing up and being a teenager or something, like you no matter how like you come into this world, you're going to question like your identity, and like you're going to like feel certain ways like different from your family, and you know there's so many different factors, and I know what you mean, like there's when there is something that can tap into something else, but like you said, if you're talking about it, then that helps you kind of like go through those and realize that it's got nothing to do with how your family feels about you, or you know your connection to them, and actually it's more stuff like that going on. And your donor is, if I got this right, your donor is completely anonymous, so you never had contact or connection with that guy.
Yeah, true. That was the only choice at the time I saved, so it wasn't really a choice for my parents to make. But yeah, he is completely. But I have never tried to get any contact or find out. I don't know because some donors do sign up for these genetic matching sites
Right.
where you can like find heritage.
Yeah.
So
It's just not something that you want to do. And I think like I remember you wrote a post recently about like the fact that you're lactose intolerant, and like that's like you just have these very small things occasionally that remind you of like this genetic connection to this person you don't know, and that must be quite strange in a way. I guess it's that real nature versus nurture thing. Like you've got so much nurture from your family, and then occasionally you'll be like, oh, that's this strange genetic thing. Is there anything else like that?
I know we've talked about some of my features where I do look a lot like my mom. So but then there are things, like she always talks about my mouth that looks very different, something like that. And yeah, we've joked about that. There's something they feel like um take credit for. We say that from him.
I love that. And like you said, because you've got the open honesty, it's like it kind of becomes a family joke, and like it's all done with love, which is really cool. So when and why like did you decide to write this book? Because I just don't feel like there's anything else really out there like this currently, and it's really exciting to be hearing the perspective from someone in your situation.
Yeah, so it was because I started my blog and I realized that there wasn't really a voice like mine out there. So
Mm.
mine was from donor conceived people, was people who had a bad experience or had a bad
Mm.
loss, seeking the donor things because they felt like they were missing
Yeah.
and felt so different. And I thought that was important for people to know that that's not always the case.
Mm.
So because I was imagining if I was the one going into fertility treatment, an egg, frightened by the information from the internet because it was so negative. So that was, I started with the blog and then later on the book to, yeah, share my family experience with as many people as possible, with the hope that that could be an inspiration to do something similar with the book my parents made, with the honesty, and then have more donor conceived people feeling as happy and content as I do.
Yeah, and feeling like less alone. Like I think that's the beauty of the internet and social media and books. Like we can share our stories, and like people, even if they're like so far away from you, can find you and say, okay, wow, I don't feel alone anymore. Like it's so lovely that you're putting that out there. Did the process of, I guess, writing your blog and then the book, like did it teach you anything that you didn't already know? Like, was it quite an interesting experience? I guess doing the book was probably going a bit deeper than you had with the blog, and then yeah, it must have been really interesting.
Yeah, I think the whole process of me starting to talk about this it was hard at first because me being donor conceived hasn't really played a very big part in my life up until the
Yeah.
point to share with everyone. So I had like a lot of experiences from our life, but it wasn't something that I thought a lot about. So I had to go back, yeah, and remember about it in the family, trying to remember different stories,
Mm.
somehow play a part in life.
Yeah.
Um, so it definitely changed also how much um, I, I how much focus I had on.
Yeah. How much do you think about it? Like the headspace.
Yeah, that has changed so much because before, and that is also what, because they sometimes ask me, how much do you think about it? And I would say, as I'm doing what I'm doing now, you can't really ask me that question anymore
Yeah.
because it's somehow related to my donor conception at this point. But before that, not very
Right.
often.
And that's why it must be so important for you to like have that separation, like set some boundaries around it, because I think when anyone shares like their experience and that becomes like a bit of a public persona, then you're asked about it all the time, and you're talking about the time, and like you said, suddenly you are thinking about it 24/7, but that wasn't your reality before. And when
Yeah,
you're with your friends or your boyfriend on holiday, like you're not sat around thinking about it necessarily.
not at all. No, no.
Yeah, it's really interesting. How is it with your family, like the family dynamics? I guess I'm guessing as you were sort of, like you said, going deeper into it and really maybe you had to go and ask more questions and really understand that. And were they very supportive of you doing it? I mean, it sounds like they're really loving and supportive of everything you do, so I'm sure they were.
Yeah, so I actually went ahead and so going from the blog uh, onto the book and also to the Instagram, I've asked how they felt with it because obviously um, their names would come up from time to
Yeah.
time. Sometimes they of them and they just people might recognize them in like work from work. They might know me and then connect the two
Yeah.
things and so
Yeah.
know that they were okay with me telling everyone.
Hmm.
Um, um, they were, and I think that is so cool. I think so cool. Um, and yeah, so we just went on from that, and they've played a bigger and bigger part. I think very big part of the book. All the drawings in the book are made by my two sisters,
I
and
love that.
my parents helped me read through it and correct things, and yeah, so they've been a huge part of it. And now my Instagram, I've done lives with both my parents, and yeah, I think they've just been so great with it.
Yeah. It's amazing. You're so lucky, like your parents and your whole family, they seem fantastic.
Yeah.
And what's the, I mean, I feel like I can only imagine you've had a really overwhelmingly positive response. Is that true? Have you had any negative comments? And I hope not, but if not, then the positive, how does that make you feel, to have all these people over the world saying such lovely things?
So I do have so much, and I'm ever I receive messages from people explaining their family situation or wanting an advice on something, or yeah, just telling me that it makes a difference in their life that I share. Um, I do. I do have negative comments. Not very many recently, actually. I think as my focus has switched a bit towards Instagram, it's been a bit less.
Mm.
I've only had like Instagram and before that on Facebook and stuff like that is a lot worse. So I think
Mm.
that's I've been over by that, and therefore my advice to every um, going into fertility treatment, go to Instagram because it is not as hard emotionally maybe as some other places.
Yeah,
People are
definitely. I think you're right. I think there's different social media have very different groups of people hanging out on them, but I think the fertility space on Instagram is amazing, and I think that it's really cool. Like there's you talking about being donor conceived, but there's so many incredible people who are donor, who've become parents through donor conception, like. Sean from Knackered Knackers, like Defining Mom, like these amazing accounts, and the community, just generally the fertility community on the whole, but especially kind of in this donor space, like there's this real beautiful connection where people can find each other and get advice from all different aspects. And I think your voice has been a really welcome voice into that community because a lot of these people, they have these beautiful children, but the children are, 0 to maybe 5, 6, 7, and it's so great to see someone go, okay, like this was me 20 years ago, and I'm still great, which is amazing. And you said about shifting your focus, and I think this is where like the partnership with ExSeed works really well because you're not just talking about donor conception now on your platform, are you? You're really looking at a wider fertility. Um, what was the decision to make that part of your platform, and has being donor conceived kind of made you more aware of fertility in general?
yeah. So I think I am a nurse, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm naturally really interested in um, this field of expertise. Um,
Yeah.
all this time when I've gone out, spoken about my donor conception, done different kinds of collaborations, I've just met so many people, experienced different um, different situations and different sides of fertility treatment, both
Mm-hmm.
of you from sperm bank, from yeah, your point of view, which is also working with sperm and improving sperm quality and the recipients, and yeah, so I feel like I've just worked with so many people, met so many amazing people that I just wanted to take in a bit.
Yeah. And I think that you're even like your parents being so open and honest about their experience, like I think you know, so often it either if your family have never had any issues conceiving, then like as you become an adult, like that's not really a conversation that's in the household necessarily. And even if there have been issues, I think sometimes people don't talk to their children about those things. So you know, you kind of grow up just, you know, in school, especially in the UK. Again, I don't know about Denmark, but there is just infertility just isn't really talked about. Miscarriage isn't really talked about. You're just told, okay, this is how you make a baby. So when you want to bake a baby, then, you know, you're going to have sex and you're going to get pregnant. It's just not true in many cases. Like there's so many issues that can arise that can make it harder to become a family, or different routes that you want to go down. So I think it's amazing that you're lucky enough to have grown up in this family where these conversations are happening all the time, and now you're kind of taking that wider, which I just think is really cool.
I'm so happy. I think it's so interesting, really, really.
Do you think that it is important that we sort of encourage these conversations in young people? Because so often, I'm sure you've seen this, is people maybe get to their 30s and they want to have children, and then suddenly they have to go, they are, oh, there's this whole world of things that can go wrong or go right, or, you know, different ways. Do you think we need to be talking about this younger?
I definitely think so. But I think it's a balance, because it's something that's also been discussed a bit here, because um I don't know, what do you call it? Do you call it sex ed?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, is more focusing on how not to become pregnant.
Hmm.
It's more about how does it work, how do you prevent it, but also what can you do to ensure that it is a possibility. Because that is what we see now, that fertility is decreasing, and I think it is really important that young people know how things are, because that is what I've experienced, is that also people I know, they don't really realize what what the situation is and how difficult it might be. So that is not something they take into consideration in planning their life and starting a family.
Yeah,
And I think such a shame.
yeah, yeah. I completely agree. And it's sort of, it's definitely something that, like, I think you should be empowered to make choices, that you shouldn't be scared to have children a little later in life, but sometimes it's useful to just know what's going on in your body and make informed choices, rather than blindly assuming everything will be fine and then, you know, being shell shocked. And again, like you said, maybe because your parents were doctors, maybe it's because, you know, you're living in quite a progressive country, like maybe they were a bit faster. But I think in other places in the world and other people's experiences, it can take a really, like I read some statistics the other day, it was like you can take like 2 years to get diagnosed with your fertility problem, and then it can be like 3 years until you know, can afford the treatment, or you're on a wait list, or, you know, whatever. And it can make a huge difference to your chances of becoming parents. But also, like you said, even if you're going to go down a different route, it's always better to have more time and more information. That's always going to make it an easier decision, whatever route you go down. Has being donor conceived made you more aware of your personal fertility, as well as kind of like the platform is trying to encourage other people? What's your kind of relationship with your fertility?
Yeah, it's fun because yes, I was seeing a friend who is a nurse and also working in fertility, but in the public hospital,
Right.
and we talked about definitely does impact your personal life. I worry a lot more about it than other people would do because I've grown up knowing how hard and how big of a struggle it can be and how big a loss it also can be. And I see it every day on my Instagram, how much these people fight and how much they just long for a child and how many years some of them
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
They put things in perspective, and I think I probably would wait longer if I wasn't in this in field. If with not that we're there yet at all.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like it's about, it's okay to get to know your fertility even if you're not there yet, because I think people do wait until they're ready, and then there might be, I think sperm is a really good example of, it can, over 3 months you can change your sperm health quite dramatically if you make some changes, but lifestyle changes are always easier if you can make them over like a gradual time. So like we always say, like it's never too early to test your sperm, like find out what's going on. And even if you don't want kids for like 2 years, 3 years, you can start to say, oh, maybe I'll stop smoking, or maybe I'll cut back on the alcohol, or and it can be a gradual thing that actually then by the time you're ready you could be in a really good position. And I know that we're going to send your sperm count out to you and your partner so you can have a look, so that hopefully he doesn't mind you sharing that with your followers, because that would be interesting.
Yeah, that goes.
But yeah, I completely agree with you. I think being proactive is never a bad thing for both men and women, and actually men can do a lot, so it's really good for them to know what's going on. Have you thought about getting any sort of fertility testing for yourself at any point, or you're going to see kind of how things go?
No, I think I've had a bit in relation to something else,
Yeah.
but to just know that everything looks fine.
Yeah.
I don't think that I would do any further, but also that everything looks as it should, and haven't had any issues with my periods or something like that. That would allow. Also,
Yeah.
that what signs that you should look for is
Yeah.
so important.
And I think that's, yeah, especially because for women we do have our periods, which kind of do give us this monthly marker, but what's good because men don't really have that, which is why the testing can be quite helpful, because you have no idea usually what's going on. Amazing. So I know that we are going to be launching a giveaway later on your channel, but how can people find you? How can they support you? How can they buy your book? Is the book available in other languages? I know you wrote it in Danish originally.
Yeah, so the book was Danish originally, but it is in English now, and it's on Amazon. And also you can find it on both my blog and my Instagram. So I think the easiest way to find both my blog and my Instagram is on this, I guess.
So yeah, we'll tag you as well in the thing. So if anyone's watching it back, they can find you. But you've got all your info there, and it's a really lovely space to hang out from the donor conception perspective, but also just the general fertility conversation.
Yeah.
And lovely Danish scenes and like cute coffee and loads of other nice things. It's just nice to see in your feed. Emma, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. I know we've got a few different things coming up in terms of a partnership, so I look forward to carrying on this conversation. Thanks for everything you're doing. Thanks so much, Emma. Have a lovely day. Bye.